Okay, so you were in Gaza. What were you doing?
I was a combat soldier in a field artillery unit.
Okay. And you were in 2 wars, at least?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so so you were very right wing.
Yeah.
Oh, so you were bombing Hamas.
Most of the things that we do in Gaza is to really try to target specific areas of terrorists.
Okay.
And during my army service, I was extremely right wing. I didn't believe in the Palestinian narrative at all. I didn't know much about the Palestinian narrative at all because I was never actually taught it.
Okay.
And I didn't think that they actually deserved anything. It just made sense to me at the time. So did the occupation. And then
What changed? Okay.
when I left the army, it was exactly the time of Amud Anan. And it was also the time that the elections started occurring.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started getting interested in the different parties because I actually knew nothing about Israeli politics at all. And I started getting interested in all the different parties, and you know, the most left-wing party was obviously the one that stuck out to me once I started understanding. And then my biggest mission was to speak to a Palestinian for the first time. So I started getting involved in all these different Facebook groups, and I spoke to my first Palestinian, and he was actually from Gaza. And during the war, when I was, on uniform.
So this is actually before you were in Gaza, the second time.
Right. So it was during, actually.
Okay, during.
Yeah. So during the war, I was in contact with him, and we, we developed like this crazy strong friendship. We talked in and out every single night throughout the entire war. He would ask me questions, I would ask him questions. And when you finally have a friend in Gaza, I think you feel different.
Yeah.
Like you start to understand things so differently, and I started to understand his perspective 100%. And he really helped me with understanding more.
Wait, at this point you're in like Herzliya, Tel Aviv area, or you're actually in Gaza?
No. I'm actually on the border.
You're actually in the border,
tanks, yeah.
ready in a tank, and you're still
Yes.
communicating with this guy.
Right.
Brave. Okay.
I think it was really important because I needed to understand who was on the other side of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know who was on the other side of the fence for a very long time. I always thought that the other side of the fence was all Hamas. I always thought that the other side of the fence was all people that supported Hamas. I didn't understand that there were people that actually didn't support Hamas. And he started telling me about stories about how he used to go to the border and hold up signs of peace, and they used to throw tear gas at him. And he showed me pictures of scars that he has. And I really started to understand the narrative a little bit better, and slowly I started making more and more Palestinian friends from Gaza. And it just helped me. It just helped me in ways that you couldn't even imagine.
And during the war, so explain what you did also during the war at the same time that you're doing, finding Palestinians.
Yeah, so basically a big part of the tanks in wars in Gaza is, it's not footwork, it's more of finding specific targets. For example, in the last war, for some ridiculous reason, the IDF chose to use airstrikes rather than use tanks more. Tanks are meant to actually find specific areas and blow them up. Very, very specific areas. Okay.
Now, what's the information you're getting about who's in these specific areas?
We get our information from the intelligence of the IDF.
Okay. And who are you told are in these areas?
We're told most of the time that it's either people that work for Hamas, somebody that would meet with a Hamas leader that you can follow. I'm sure, I don't know because I wasn't in the intelligence unit, but I'm sure that there's also spies that are inside Gaza that could also, somehow lead to the leaders. That's just an assumption, though. I have no idea, but it's just, it makes sense.
Yeah. Which exit am I getting off at, by the way?
You have in 400 meters to the left.
A left? Oh, I was supposed to get off there. Shit. Okay. We'll go. Sorry, I missed it then. I'll go back. It'll tell us in a minute. Okay, so go on.
So yeah, they just, I guess the intelligence has their own way of figuring it out. A way that I'm not aware of.
Okay, and so you're bombing Hamas leaders or operatives, combatants. Right. At any point, are you seeing there's civilians there as well?
When I was in the IDF, if you saw a civilian, you didn't shoot. Okay. There was no such thing. But I guess, I wasn't in the Air Force, so I guess things have changed. And, you can see that from the numbers in the last war. But when I was there was no such thing as shooting if there were civilians in the area.
Because as you know, a lot of civilians were killed.
Right.
And also there's a perception on the Palestinian side that civilians are targeted.
Right.
In Gaza.
So no, definitely not. We have counted numbers of hundreds of times when somebody that was sitting in the tank literally said, "I'm not shooting. Sorry, I don't have a clear picture." Even if you don't have a 100% clear picture of what's going on, and this is something that's taught to you in the first day that you enter basic training, you are told if you do not have a 100% clear picture and you do not see everyone that is there, you do not shoot. There is no shooting going on. And that's something that's also taught to the Air Force. It's taught in all of the same books. We all have the same. We all learn from the same pamphlets. It's all the same thing. It's חלק מחוקים של צה"ל. You do not shoot if you do not have a 100% clear picture.
Okay. So why do you think so many civilians were killed?
I think the tactics that were used, I think that airstrikes wasn't one of the best tactics, and I also do believe that Hamas uses a lot of their civilians as shields, and they don't allow them to leave areas during times of war. I think it's just easier for them, and it's easier to also blame Israel afterwards, and tell them you died because your kid died because Israel targeted civilians.
Now, okay, is this your perception, or is this also, like, for example, are you told this by Palestinians in Gaza?
No. This is completely and totally my perception.
Okay.
I don't think that my friends in Gaza can tell me that. I don't think that my friends in Gaza are safe enough to tell me things like that. My friends in Gaza talk a lot of shit about Hamas.
Okay.
They talk a lot of smack about Hamas, and they are not fans. But they do not go too far. They what they need to keep quiet, they keep quiet. They don't say much.
Okay, fair enough. If you're called back for reserve duty, if there was a war today, would you go back to Gaza and do the same thing?
Yes.
Bomb. Why? To the right?
No, it's a roundabout.
Okay.
Right.
And why?
If there was another war tomorrow morning, yeah, I'd be there. I think that Hamas is not a government. I don't think that they're a method for peace. I don't think that they're in any way somebody who can help us reach peace, because they're straight out terrorists. And that's not coming as a soldier. That's just just the way it is. I don't think that you can reach peace with terrorists, but at the same time, I also don't think that you can reach peace with Bibi. And I think that it's something that's really important is that you can't be building tunnels under my homes, and you can't be shooting rockets whenever you choose to. It just doesn't work that way. And I think that me going to war is just as I'm protecting the Israeli people, I'm also protecting the Palestinian people because they're living under terror and they don't need to be living under terror.
Okay. Would you serve in the West Bank, for example?
No, I would not serve.
What's the difference?
In the occupied territories. The difference is that there's an occupation going on for over 50 years, and I don't think that that's something legitimate. So I wouldn't be able to serve in the West Bank.
Okay.
I'm glad I didn't have to be put in that position because I wouldn't be able to.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else that you learned when you were in Gaza that you think would be interesting for people to know about your perception of the truth of what happened?
I think that there's a lot of different people in Gaza, and I think it's important to, at some point in life, speak to a Gazan. To understand that not everyone in Gaza agrees with Hamas, and that some say that it wasn't democratic voting and they didn't actually vote them in or whatever, but at the end of the day they won, and it could be because the same reason that Bibi wins in Israel, because people are still filled with hate and fear, and that's understandable, but it's something that we have to let go of. I think the best way to really understand the other side is to speak to someone from the other side and understand that there's another perspective, and there's somebody that's reaching out and they want peace. They don't want Hamas.